Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Eugene D. Pasquale, Pennsylvania Auditor General, and here with two representatives, Kristen Phillips-Hill and Dan Mao, who were staunch advocates along with several other legislators, and one of the reasons we are here today. And so I want to begin by thanking both of them. Although, Chris, I don't think we served together now, but Dan and I, we were part of the breakfast group at, what was it, Denny's?
I think so, yeah.
Denny's, so we would meet when I was in the State House, so always good to catch up with former colleagues as well. Again, thank you for being here. I'm here today to announce that my team will immediately start the department's first ever audits of the Delaware River Basin Commission and the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. I look forward to working cooperatively with both commissions to identify any problems, concerns, or weaknesses, and to develop workable solutions on anything that we find. My team will conduct a comprehensive examinations of both river basin commissions and report back to the public and the General Assembly this summer. The two separate audits that will be working together at the same time will be conducted on 6 objectives that are specified in the State Fiscal Code, which is Act 44 of 2017, which mandated the audits review. Now, again, I want to say these are mandated, but Representative Phillips-Hill in particular and I were talking about this over the entire summer. So while it was a priority of the General Assembly, my team did work with them along the way to make sure that we had objectives that I thought and my team thought we would be able to get to the bottom of, and those are the cost of salaries, benefits, and other compensation provided to the officers and employees of the commissions, the cost of expense reimbursement provided to the officers and employees of each commission, other fixed and variable costs of the commissions, the potential for improved efficiencies and overall cost reductions, including an analysis of duplication of Commonwealth efforts, and the ability to share equipment, services, or personnel with Commonwealth and local agencies, contributions to the Commission by the Commonwealth or any person within this Commonwealth, whether through appropriations, fees, penalties, or anything else that could arise in comparison to other signatory parties, meaning this is 4 states are involved in this along with the Army Corps of Engineers, so we want to see if Pennsylvania is fairly involved with it, whether other states are doing their fair share as well. The audits will cover July 1, 2016 to June 30, 2017. And as I mentioned earlier, I expect to have both audits completed this summer. These two commissions together received nearly $500,000, $454,000 to be precise, in Pennsylvania taxpayer funding in the current fiscal year. And again, neither commission has been audited before by the Pennsylvania Auditor General. $217,000 was to the Delaware River Basin Commission and $237,000 to the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. The state funding of the commissions that they receive is through the Department of Environmental Protection. Both commissions are responsible for protecting and managing water resources that cross state boundaries and impact the lives of millions of Pennsylvanians. Pennsylvania needs to have a seat at the table in coordinating with surrounding states to manage these two critical water resources, to make sure that we preserve the water supply and quality, manage drought and flood condition, and preserve water-related recreational opportunities. The Susquehanna River flows 27,500 square miles through New York, Pennsylvania, and Maryland into the Chesapeake Bay. The Delaware River is the longest undammed river east of the Mississippi. It flows 330 miles from the Catskill Mountains in New York to the mouth of the Delaware Bay, where it enters the Atlantic Ocean. The river is fed by 216 tributaries, the largest being the Schuylkill and Lehigh rivers here in Pennsylvania. And before I open the floor to questions from the media, I wanted to invite both representatives. We're going to start with Representative Kristen Phillips-Hill to talk about why she was a staunch advocate for me doing these two audits. I think Representative Mao will share some similar thoughts. And then after that, we'll be open to any questions on this or certainly any other topic that you would like to ask me or the other representatives about. So with that, Representative Kristen Phillips-Hill.
Good morning. Thank you, Auditor General. Today's announcement of these historic audits is a win for the Pennsylvania taxpayer. This is not to assume that the audit's findings will uncover any type of unscrupulous or illegal activity. It is, however, a decision that our taxpayers deserve. Last March, a handful of my House colleagues and I, including Representative Mao, met with representatives from the Department of Environmental Protection to discuss what we felt were abuses of power and redundancy of services by the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. From there, we requested and received a series of hearings to examine claims of questionable activity by the Susquehanna River Basin Commission that has led to higher than expected customer water bills, as well as the alleged wasting of taxpayer dollars through excessive fees and repetition of services. To their credit, the SRBC testified at each of the hearings to support their actions and attempt to refute our claims. Opinions aside, one of the things that we learned was the Susquehanna River and the Delaware River Basin Commissions are exempt from Pennsylvania's right-to-know law, as well as any oversight by the Independent Fiscal Office or the Independent Regulatory Review Commission. Our only option was to pursue audits of both commissions, and we were successful when Pennsylvania's 2017-2018 budget included the necessary authorization for the Auditor General to open the SRBC's books, as well as the funding for audits of both the SRBC and the DRBC. State legislators are fiscal stewards of taxpayer dollars. And I believe that one of our primary responsibilities is to root out and address the cost drivers in state government that negatively impact taxpayers' wallets and cause government to spend more money than it has. Truly, I applaud the Auditor General and his office for once again performing its due diligence in fighting for government efficiency and the rights of our taxpayers. And I have great confidence that they will do a thorough job, and I really look forward to their findings in the coming months. Auditor General, thank you very, very much. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague from Adams County, Representative Dan Mao.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. As Kristen just told you, I am State Representative Dan Mao from Adams County. The Susquehanna River Basin Commission has operated under the radar for many years. The compact drew my attention about 3 years ago when water authorities and others in Adams County began complaining about onerous regulations and exorbitant fees that seemingly lacked justification, whose costs fell squarely on the shoulders of their customers, the ratepayers. Subsequent meetings with the SRBC did not allay my concerns. In fact, they heightened them. It was apparent that the SRBC lacked oversight, transparency, accountability that is common in our government agencies. As a state representative, I answer to my constituents, the taxpayers of Adams County. No government entity should go unchecked. After I publicly voiced my concerns about the onerous regulations and exorbitant fees and charges, my phone began ringing off the hook and my email box filled up with messages from municipal authorities, golf courses, private industries, ski resorts, and others who complained that the SRBC was out of control. But the most alarming aspect of these messages is that each of these complaints had an overwhelming fear of retribution for speaking out. Even though this compact is not a state agency, because they operate with taxpayer dollars, they should be held accountable to the General Assembly, yet they are not. Many elected officials believe the SRBC and the Delaware River Basin Commission have been allowed to run rogue and have strayed away from the original intent of the compact. They must be held accountable, and that accountability begins with the full audit of those commissions by the Auditor General and his very competent staff. I look forward with enthusiasm to his thorough examination and findings. Thank you.
Before we open up to any questions, again, I want to commend both legislators, Mal and Kristen Phillips Hill, and the entire General Assembly for their leadership in getting to this point. Look, here's the reality of this. The General Assembly and the governor work out the state budget. And it was very clear from talking to Representative Phillips Hill over the summer, and she was relaying a message from colleagues on both sides of the aisle, that there was a lack of confidence in these two commissions. Whether that is right or wrong will be borne out in this audit. But for them to appropriate money, they felt that they needed to have an independent review moving forward. So that is what my team is here to do, to try to find out what they're maybe doing right, wrong, or what can be done better. And sometimes I feel like I shouldn't be giving away these secrets, but anytime any entity says they shouldn't be audited or don't need to be audited is almost a way to get me to lose sleep at night thinking, how do we start that audit immediately? Even my office gets audited by other state agencies because we all need to improve. And the fact that my department has not audited these two commissions before is not a knock on those two commissions at all. It's actually something that is probably long overdue. So I look forward to my team going through both commissions very thoroughly so that we can produce a report that is both helpful to the commissions, helpful to the General Assembly and to the governor, but more importantly, helpful to the people of Pennsylvania with the important mission that these two commissions have. So with that, again, thank you for being here, and more than happy to answer any questions, and I'm sure both representatives will as well. And if you want to talk about anything beyond this, I'm certainly more than happy to. If it's about particular amendments, I'm going to let that go to my colleagues. But literally anything that people want to talk about, more than happy to. Questions?
These commissions were sort of set up back maybe 40 years ago with some formidable powers to deal with some major issues like the Delaware Commission protecting the New York City water supply and reservoirs. Are you going to get in, are you looking at the powers of these commissions, or is it one more limited than that?
We will look at the powers of the commission. Obviously, because there's other states involved, we can't, as a state, unilaterally change things. But one thing that I am a fierce advocate for in any of these items is making sure that other states are carrying their fair share. So if hypothetically, and again, I want to be very clear, I don't have any indication it's one way or the other. But if it turns out that Pennsylvania is shouldering a bigger responsibility than the other states, I will be very forthright in coming out and saying that that dynamic would need to change, and advocating for the governor and General Assembly to really push our commission members to advocate for that. But again, this is something that as a state I know we cannot change. Maybe everything will be fine too, but I know that there's a lot of other states and the Army Corps of Engineers that are involved in this as well. But we will be looking at the power structure.
Given that these are interstate compacts, are you aware of any of the other states conducting audits on these organizations? And relating to that, have you had any input from other states about conducting audits?
During the course of the audit, we anticipate to reach out to some of the other states. I'm not aware of any other audits that are being done. They maybe have already done them in the past. That I don't know. But during the course of the audit, we will be reaching out to other states.
Does the fact that these are interstate compacts complicate the matter of conducting them?
It doesn't complicate. The best way to phrase that is, it doesn't complicate the actual audit, because we're really, our mandate is we're looking at the Pennsylvania portion of this and the Pennsylvania tax dollars. What it does complicate is if we do need to make changes, you have to get the cooperation of the other states as part of that. That is different than I find an issue in a school district in Pennsylvania and simply, we're able to work out the change school district to the department. This is obviously a different situation, but that it doesn't complicate the audit, but it may complicate how successful we are in implementing the recommendations.
Do you have any reaction to the map that was submitted, the congressional map that was submitted to the governor on Friday?
I do know that it was submitted. I do know that there is no perfect process for this. In 2008, when I was a legislator, actually the 2009-2010 session, and this is, I'm going to be clear about this, this is, in my view, a pox on both parties. I introduced a bill that would have created an independent commission similar to what they have in Iowa, with the task of drawing competitive districts. At that time, the Democrats, of which I am one, were in the majority, and we did not run that bill, which I think was a big mistake. And I do think that gerrymandering has been something that's been going on for both parties for a long time. I do know that the map was submitted. If I were sitting around crafting up a map by myself, which is not, I mean, I can do it at home and it doesn't, like, it has no legal bearing, but that has about as much legal bearing as that map. And the reason why I say that is the map should go through the legislative process, meaning that would be, in my view, the draft of the leaders of both the House and Senate on the Republican side. This should be done in cooperation with the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Wolf administration to try to come up with a fair as map as possible. So would that be my map of choice? No, I view that as the beginning of the negotiations. It is and I want to be clear about this, it is a political process to draw these maps. There's no way around it. It's a political process. And you're never going to make it where anyone's happy. And this is where sort of my small d Democrat comes in. Whenever one party controls the whole operation, whether it be Republican or Democrat, I don't think the outcome for the voters is the best thing. That's why I actually think this one, when I say all parties should be involved, you do have a Democratic governor and a Republican majority. I think that may help force a compromise to get this done. But I would prefer, and this is again my small d Democrat, again, not the registered d Democrat, I believe this should be done by the General Assembly in cooperation with the governor and not done by the courts. That is my personal preference. That way you can actually hold the people that cast that vote accountable. Oh, I mean, that's a whole separate issue, yes. Any other questions? If not, everyone, thank you for your time, and I look forward to continuing the discussion with you on this and other issues moving forward.